The U.S. has recovered millions of dollars paid in ransom to the Colonial Pipeline hackers. The operation, we're told, was led by the FBI in cooperation with Colonial Pipeline. Colonial's chief executive says it paid more than $4 million in ransom to the hackers, but it took steps to help investigators track the payment to a cryptocurrency wallet used by the hackers. It is rare to recover money from such a debilitating ransomware attack. So far, the Justice Department isn't commenting on the case. Now, 3rd District Congressman Jim Banks chairs the House Subcommittee on Cyber, Innovative Technologies and Information Systems. He's joining us tonight live with us. Congressman, I'm glad you're here.
Good to be with you.
We just had the story about the government recovering the money paid to the Colonial Pipeline hackers. Those kinds of attacks, as you know, are increasing now. And the Government Accountability Office recently warned of our vulnerable power grid. Is the government and the private sector adequately prepared should hackers target vital infrastructure maybe tomorrow?
Well, Brian, it's an important question because we're seeing more and more circumstances just like the cyber attack that you mentioned a moment ago. There was a cyber attack in the last couple of weeks on a major meat producer as well. We've seen attacks like these across the board. To answer your question, no, we're not doing enough. But the story that you just read is a really important story because it shows that we have the ingenuity, we have the technology in the United States to confront situations like this. It's a really big deal that we found a way to unlock this cryptocurrency. That hardly ever happens, so that's a good sign moving forward. But we have to do more to prevent attacks like these, and that's why in this new role as a ranking member of the Cyber Subcommittee on the House Armed Services Committee, I look forward to being involved in this topic moving forward.
We're about 7 months removed now from the November election. For many Republicans still today, a top priority appears to include revisiting the election, questioning its legitimacy. I want to play a clip now from your recent interview with Chris Wallace on Fox.
Is Joe Biden the legitimate president of the United States?
Yes, Joe Biden was elected. He was inaugurated on January 20th, and he's our focus.
Now, that was a month ago. This weekend, former President Trump reiterated his claims that the election was stolen, saying, quote, "The evidence is too voluminous to even mention." Congressman, are those members of your party who are supporting election audits and suggesting or even outright stating that the election was illegitimate, are they causing damage to the democracy? Are they preventing the advancement of the very issues you say are critical to the country right now?
Well, Brian, right now we have a crisis in confidence in our elections process when 48% of the American people say they do not trust our elections. And I believe that is because of how the elections last November were conducted. It's why I wrote a bill that has nearly 100 co-sponsors in the House that makes significant election reforms in federal elections, and why a number of state houses around the country are confronting issues like stronger voter identification for mail-in ballots, for example. That's a common sense step forward that we can take to restore trust in our elections process. I mean, President Trump is right in that many states across the country unconstitutionally changed their election laws before Election Day. That's why I objected to the 2 states that I did on January 6th, and it's why I introduced the Save Democracy Act to restore trust in our elections process. That's an important issue that an overwhelming number of my constituents, Republican and Democrat, have reached out to me about supporting voter ID laws. By the way, the rallying cry from the left that somehow voter ID laws are racist is outrageous when a majority of the African Americans in our country support stronger voter ID laws. So that's why many of us have taken this on as a cause. Many of these bills are being passed at state legislatures. My bill, the Save Democracy Act, was introduced in Congress, and I hope in the months ahead that we can move forward and have a real debate about how we can restore trust in our elections.
I mean, none of the courts found any evidence of fraud or wrongdoing in any of those elections. I do want to ask you about this quickly in the 30 seconds or so we have left. Mike Pence is visiting early voting states right now. Would you support a Pence run for the White House if he so chooses?
Well, I believe he has a lot to offer. He's been a great leader for our state and for our country. The good news is that Republicans have a strong and large field of candidates. I've been meeting with all of them as chairman of the Republican Study Committee, the largest conservative caucus on Capitol Hill. We've had every single name that you can mention who is a potential 24 hopeful. Mike Pence is at the top of my list as someone who I respect and admire, incredible integrity, a man of principle. I hope that he does run because he has a great deal to offer.
Would you choose Pence over Trump, perhaps, if Trump decides to run again?
2024 is a long ways away, and like I said, we have a lot of great candidates who are running. I'm going to see President Trump on Thursday. I don't know what his plans are for 24, but I imagine that'll be one of the topics of conversation.
Now, you and the Republican Study Committee are meeting him in New Jersey, I believe. What do you plan to talk to him about?
Well, I want to talk about the future of the Republican Party. I mean, I've been focused on writing the consensus conservative agenda that brings Republicans together. I happen to believe that the Republican Party can be both the party of Ronald Reagan and the party of Donald Trump. And if we can marry those two wings of the Republican Party back together, we will win back the majority by a large margin in the midterm election next year, and we'll win back the White House in 2024. But it starts with the agenda. It starts with focusing on what makes us different from the Democrat agenda, and that when we focus on that, we win elections because the vast majority of Americans are on our side.
Okay, Congressman Jim Banks, we appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.